We must do something bigger, think Clara and other union leaders. Something huge. A giant strike at every garment factory in the city. The union holds a meeting. Throngs of workers pack the seats, the aisles, the walls. The hall thrums with excitement. Clara listens to speech after speech. The speakers, mostly men, want everyone to be careful. 2 hours pass. No one recommends a general strike. Finally, the most powerful union leader in the country goes up to the podium. Not even he proposes action. So, Clara does. That's right, Clara. She calls out from the front of the hall. The crowd lifts her to the stage where she shouts in Yiddish, "I have no further patience for talk. I move that we go on a general strike." And she starts the largest walkout of women workers in U.S. history. The next morning, New York City is stunned by the sight of the 1,000 young women streaming from the factories. One newspaper calls it an army. Others call it a revolt. It's a revolt of girls, for some are only 12 years old, and the rest are barely out of their teens. In the coming weeks, Clara is called a hero. She lights up a chilly Union Hall with her fiery pep talks. Her singing lifts the spirit of picketers, and when a group of thugs approaches, she yells, "Stand fast, girls!" And they do, all winter long in the bitter cold, in their cheap, thin coats, tired and starving and scared. The girls walk alongside the men on the icy sidewalks of the picket line. They spill out of the union halls, blocking the roads, filling street corners and public squares. Newspapers write stories about them. College girls raise money for them. Rich women swathed in fur coats picket with the factory girls. By the time the strike is over, hundreds of bosses agree to let their staff form unions. They shorten the work week and raise salaries. The strike emboldens thousands of women to walk out of garment factories in Philadelphia and Chicago. And the strike convinces Clara to keep fighting for the rights of workers. Her throat is hoarse, her feet are sore, but she has helped thousands of people, proving that in America, wrongs can be righted. Warriors can wear skirts and blouses, and the bravest hearts may beat in girls only 5 feet tall. More about the garment industry. Between 1880 and 1920, 2 million Jews immigrated to America, fleeing persecution, pogroms, government-sanctioned attacks, and poverty in Russia, Ukraine, Poland, and other parts of Eastern Europe. Many of these immigrants found work in the booming garment industry. In 1909, the year of the general strike, nearly 400 factories employing 40,000 people made blouses for half the country. Of these workers, 80% were female, 70% were between 16 and 25 years of age, and 65% were Russian, Eastern European, Jewish. The remainders of the workers were Italian and American. Many of the factory owners were Eastern European Jews who'd worked their way up in the business. Abuses were rampant throughout the industry. Many bosses shaved time off lunch hours, set clocks back at the end of the day to fool workers, made them work long hours, including illegal evening work for little money, forced them to pay for cloths soiled with blood or spilled food, and fired them at will. Some factories hired girls as young as 6 years old to cut thread from garments. At the beginning of the 1909 strike, police and judges sided with the affluent factory owners. 600 young women were arrested, and 13 girls, one as young as 12 years old, were sentenced to 5 days in the workhouse. Police brutality ceased only when members of the Women's Trade Union League, made up of wealthy and middle-class women, joined the picketers and held meetings to publicize their plight. When the strike ended, 339 waist and dress manufacturing firms allowed workers to form unions, shortened their work week, and increased their hourly wages. Some companies refused to negotiate, notably the Triangle Waist Factory, where the following year hazardous conditions led to a fire that claimed 146 lives. The tragedy raised public awareness even further about the evils of the garment industry. Clara Lemlich, then in her early 20s, investigated health and safety conditions in the garment district for the union. In the aftermath of the strike, thousands of workers in Philadelphia, as well as in Chicago, Cleveland, and Kalamazoo, struck for better working conditions or campaigned for the right to organize unions. Along with Clara, fellow strikers Pauline Newman and Rose Schneiderman took on leadership roles in the labor movement. The progress made by the garment industry activists affected jobs throughout the country. Though there are still wrongs to be righted, today's workers have 5-day work weeks, overtime pay, and other protections due in great part to labor leaders like Clara Lemlich and thousands of brave girls who picketed in the winter of 1909.